So 5 tricky JavaScript questions. So now based on your level of understanding JavaScript, you might feel some of the questions to be easy or some of the questions to be hard. But let's see if you can solve the question, okay? So we'll give it a try. I want you to focus on each and every question carefully. Take your time to try to solve it on your own. If you cannot do that, I will provide you the solution. So let's dive into the first question. So here's the first problem. So the first problem is basically convert object to array. So there's an object called X having two properties A and B, and those two properties are having values 5 and 10. Now the desired output should be the values of the properties of this object, which is 5 and 10, and it should be displayed in an array format. So can you answer this question? I want you to try to answer this question. I'll pause the video and I'll come back with the solution myself. So let's work on the solution. So let x, let me type it out. Let x equals to a 5, b 10. So what we need to do here, we need to iterate over this object. So what we need to do to iterate over this object is we need to loop it. So I'm going to use for in loop here. So for key in x, so x is the object here and key is a and b. So these are two keys. So if I console log right now, if I console log key here, let me save it and let me try to run it. You can see that it prints out a and b. So a and b are two keys of this object, but we need to print the values, not the key. So what we can do, we can do something like x dot key or x in third bracket key. So if I run it again, you will see 5 and 10 is printed. So basically what this means is we need to access both of these properties. So how to access both of these properties? We can access like this, x dot a and x dot b, right? And since x is constant here, x is the object and key is the variable, key is changing on each and every iteration. So the first time key is a, the second time key is b. So that's why we are doing it like this. So x and key. So it gives us 5 and 10. Okay. So now the question was to print this in an array format. So how to print it in an array format? Let me take an array, let new array here. So this is an array. And what I will do, I'll remove the console log from here. I'll do new array dot push x key. So I'm pushing both the values here, and then I'll do a console log new array. So let me see the answer. And the answer is 5 and 10. Okay, let's move to the next. Okay, so we are back with the next question, that is var a equals to 10, and then we have an IIFE. IIFE is nothing but immediately invoked function expression. And inside that IIFE, we are console logging the a, and then we are doing var a equals to 20. So we have already done var a equals to 10 before, and now we are again defining var a equals to 20 inside the IIFE. So what will be the output? So this question does not need you to solve it like typing code, but this question needs you to think and understand what this output can be. So I want you to try this. I want you not to copy and paste it and run it in your terminal. Without doing that, you should try to figure out what the output should be, and I'll be back with the solution. Okay, so here's the solution. Let me copy this and paste it here. Let me remove this. So what I'm seeing in this question is var a has been assigned two values, one in the global scope and another in the function scope. Okay, so if I remove this line, if I comment this out, then what will be the value of A? So if I comment this line, the value of A will be 10. So it's pretty simple because A has been assigned 10 A's in global scope, and then inside the global scope we are having this function scope. So this value will get propagated here, and when JavaScript runtime is going to execute this line, it will try to find out where this A is coming from. So it will look up and find out that A is already here and 10 is already present. So it will print out 10. So let me try to run it and show it to you. You can see that 10 is being printed. Now, everything changes here if I add this line. So if I add this line, this value is not going to be 10 anymore. Why is that? So inside this function scope, when we are defining A equals to 20 and also we are defining it with var, then hoisting comes into the picture. So I hope you know what hoisting is. So hoisting happens with any variable when you are defining the variable with var keyword. So what JavaScript will do with this var keyword is it will do something like this. It will define var A here and it will assign the value here. So exactly something like this will happen. And when JavaScript runtime will come here and try to execute this A, it will try to find out the nearest A value that is present within its lexical scope, and its lexical scope is here, and this A is having the value as undefined. Okay. So, and because this A is having the value of undefined, because A is trying to be accessed before this value 20 has been assigned to it, so that's why it will print out undefined here. So let me run it again and you will see that undefined is being printed. So this is the same. If I just get it back in its initial form, it will work in the same way. It will be undefined. So I hope you could solve it on your own. If not, no problem, because while watching this video, you might be getting help for your upcoming interviews or just brushing up your JavaScript skills. So let's go and let's move to the next question. So our next problem statement is here. So this is a reverse string statement. So this is fairly simple than other questions because it does not have that much of concept, but some of you might find it a little bit tricky. So let's look into the problem. So there is let y equals to hello, and the output should be just the opposite of hello, that is OLLEH. So if you think you can solve it, just give it a try and I'll be back with the solution soon. So let me write down let y equals to hello here. And what we can do, we can actually reverse this string. So we have a property called dot reverse, but that property exists in arrays but not string. So what we need to do, we need to convert this string into array. So that is the first thing that we're going to do. So let me call it reversed array. So y is the string. So how do we convert a string into array? You can convert a string into array by using the split method. So I'll not pass anything here. So let me just show it to you how that works. So let me console log new reversed array, and it will print something like this. So all these characters get split into array properties. So now the array has been formed. Now we need to reverse the array. So we'll just add the property reverse here, and then let me console log it, and you will see that all the characters have been reversed. Now the question was to output the value in string format. So now we have got the array in reverse format. We need to convert it back to string format. So how do we convert an array back to string format? We can do that by using join methods. So if I just add this join method, by not passing anything. So it will give us the expected output, that is OLLDH. And just if you're thinking what happens if we pass something here, so let me show it to you. If you pass a colon here, then the colon will be added in between all the characters, but that's not important for this question. Moving on to the next question. So problem number 4 is here. So there's an object called obj, and this object is having properties A and also a method get A, and it's returning this dot A, which is 5. And then what we are doing here, let x equals to obj dot get A, that is we are storing this function and we are console logging x, and also we are invoking that function. So I want you to tell me what will be the output of this, because there's nothing to solve here. You just need to look into the problem and try to understand what can be the output. So please don't run it anywhere. Just look into the code and try to find out what the output will be, and I'll be back with the solution and the explanation. So here we go with the solution. So most of the JavaScript developers will get it wrong, and they will say that the answer will be 5, because it's pretty simple. We have an object here. The object has property A, that is 5, and we have a method get A, and that method is returning this dot A, which is 5. So whenever we are storing that object dot method in a variable, and when we are executing that variable, it will obviously be 5, right? But no, that is wrong, and let me explain you why. So let's do one thing. Let me try to comment this line out for now, and let me try to do console log obj dot get A, and we are trying to, instead of assigning this into x, we are trying to directly execute obj dot get A, and we are console logging it. So in this case the output will be 5. But whenever we are assigning obj dot get A in x, so this function's statement, this function's definition is getting assigned to x. Okay, so if we try to console log the x now, what we will see? So we will see a function definition. So function definition, and the name of the function is get A. So let me just, yes, so you can see that the function get A. So we are storing the definition of the function get A inside x. So this function is detached from this object. So try to understand this carefully. So this function, whenever we are storing a function's definition in a variable, then this function is getting detached from this object. So now this function does not know what this object is. So that means this keyword inside this function does not point to this object anymore, because this x is residing on a global scope, right? This x is residing on a global scope. So the global scope can be anything. If you run the JavaScript in browser, the global scope will be Windows. If you run it in Node.js, the global scope can be a plain object, or it can be global. So now x is residing on global scope, and you are assigning the function definition to x. So that means that this keyword inside this function is now pointing to the global scope, right? So this keyword inside this function is now pointing to this global scope. But this should be pointed to this object, but which is not happening anymore, since this function is getting detached from this object on this line. And since this keyword is pointing to this global scope, so what is the value of this in global scope? So in Node.js environment, the value of this will be either global or a plain object. So let us find out, and you can see that plain object, a blank object, is the value of this. So this blank object does not have a property. So if I print out this dot a, you will see this will print out undefined. Okay, so that means if we comment this out. So if we try to console log x with invoking the function, we will find the answer to be undefined. And I have explained you why. So how can we fix this problem? Because I still want my answer to be 5. I don't want my answer to be undefined. So how can we fix this issue? We can still fix it by using something called call, apply, bind. So these call, apply, bind methods are used to change the context of this. So in this line, if you see, we are console logging x, we are invoking the x, that is this get a function like this. But since get a has been detached from this object, get a function does not know what is the value of this. But we need this get a function to know that the value of this is object. So how can we do that? We can do that by adding call. So we want to call x on top of object. So if we do that, then we will see the answer is 5. Now, since we change this line, it eventually means that we are calling the x, we are calling this function on top of this object. And now the function knows that it's being called within this object. So this will point to this object instead of global scope. Now, if I run it, you will see the answer is 5. Okay, so we are back with the last question of this video. It seems to be a little bit complex, isn't it? There is an object and two methods. Let's try to understand what it's trying to say. So there's an object, let x, and it's having a and b as two properties, having two values, and there are two methods, get a and get b, and we are console logging this dot a and this dot b, which will give us 5 and 10. So it will give us 5 and 10 if we try to access get a and get b separately, but the question wants us to execute the code in this way. So x dot get a dot get b, and also it wants us to print the value 5 and 10. So I hope you understand what the requirement is, and I want you to have a go at it, and I will come back with this solution in few minutes. Okay, so let me uncomment this and try to find out the solution. So we cannot change this line, okay? We cannot change this line in any way, and also we want the answer to be 5 and 10. Now tell me, the only way to access get a is by doing something like x dot get a, and the only way to access get b is by doing x dot get b. Okay, so let me comment this out. If I print the value, you can see that it will print 5 and 10. But this is not what the question was. The question was to print 5 and 10 by doing something like this. So if I do this right now, let me comment this out. What do you think will happen? So x dot get a will print 5 and dot get b will print nothing because it's undefined. It's undefined dot get b, right? So x dot get a is printing 5 and dot get b means undefined dot get b. So it will throw an error. So if I do this, you can see 5 has been printed here and the pointer is pointing towards dot get b, cannot read properties of undefined. So we have to make this undefined, which is present here, we have to convert this undefined to something like this. Okay, we have to convert this undefined to something like x dot get b. So how can we do that? We can manipulate get a function because x dot get a is a valid function. It's giving us 5 as the value. So what we can do, we can manipulate this. So what if we return x here? So what we can do, we can return x here. So if we return x, what will it mean? It means 5 and then we are returning x. So this will print out 5 here and then it will return x and x means this whole thing, and then dot get b. So that means 5 and then x dot get b, which is 10. Okay, so let me just run it again, and you can see 5 and 10 being printed here. And there is a better way to solve this. We can do this by replacing x with this. So this basically means x itself, and it will give us the same output. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something. If you think that you could have solved these questions in a little bit different way, I want you to write comments, and I want you how you could have solved it. Okay, so I'll be back with another video soon. Happy coding. Enjoy. Bye.